What is up, dudes and lady dudes? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today, we've got a little bit of news for you. We got a little update on on this new OCG structure deck vote poll thing. And I'm curious, and I was curious to see how things actually started because I had some initial predictions, and some of them are exactly on the money, and some of them are not at all. So, I just want to go ahead and take a look at where things are. Keep in mind we're about, I think, halfway through because I believe the poll started on the 19th, going to the 25th, and it's the 22nd, so we're right in the middle. This is like the halfway mark here. So let's go ahead and scroll down here and see where everything lies. Also, shout out to you, your organization, as always, for amazing news content. Anyway, coming in at first, not surprising, Cyber Style. After like I said in my video, I was like, if this is Cyber Dragon, which I believed it was, this would be the favorite, and it's exactly that. It's in first place. Obviously, we don't have a vote count, so we don't know how far in first place, but it's in first, so that's cool. Second is where things start to get interesting, right? Because we see Ice Barrier sitting in second. Who would have thought enough people liked Ice Barriers to get them all the way up into second? So that's really cool because that's one of those that I said like I would not be mad about. Like I would totally be down for an Ice Barrier structure deck. Gusto coming in third again, or Gusto, I guess what it has to be. Again, kind of same thing. They're both in the same boat for me. I like both their designs. I like that they're water and wind. Those are two attributes that don't see enough play as anyway. And cool. So it's in third there. Then Trickstar. So this is one I said that like could also have a chance just because it's like the newest archetype on here, which means it's like the freshest in people's minds. As well as there are a lot of fans of Trickstars out there. I know there are, even though there are a lot of people that hate them. It's one of those decks that there's like a lot of people that love Trickstars. There's a lot of people that really dislike Trickstars. So that's really cool. Karibo, this one I think the anime power is just keeping it here at 5. But this is kind of what I hoped would happen, is that like I knew the anime power would give it a chance, but it looks like it's just not enough to like, it's not interesting enough. Like it's interesting only in the fact that it's Karibo, but like the deck isn't that interesting and stuff like that. So I think that's what's keeping it back. And then we get to some of the ones that I knew, like I kind of thought were like wouldn't be that like too crazy on here. So Morphtronic and Star Seraph, both ending up on here at 6 and 7. Like, yeah, this makes sense. I just think like these are archetypes that aren't like too particularly interesting. When you compare them to stuff like Ice Barrier and Gusto, they just kind of lose out in terms of interest. And then we get to where I get surprised, okay? First things first, Kaiju. Okay, Kaiju isn't really the most surprising thing here. I know that Kaijus aren't even like, well, they're not even really like they're an archetype, but they're not their own deck. So like that kind of keeps people from being able to like associate them as anything other than just like a package that you play or like a side deck core. And I think that's what people were worried about, is that people weren't going to vote for it because they were like, oh, it's just like a side deck package. Like I'm going to vote to get a structure deck for just like a little more side deck package stuff. Like I want a real new deck. And not that they couldn't with Kaijus like potentially go in that route to try and make it a deck, but I think that's where it falls off, is that people just don't see that happening, and so they just weren't going to like waste their vote on something that was such a long shot like that, right? And then for like the most surprising thing here, and I would say honestly this is like the only really crazy surprising thing here, is Tour Guide. And I think where this happens, how this went down, was I think I underestimated the fact that this is an OCG poll, not a TCG poll. Burning Abyss was one of the most popular decks here in the TCG, and while I do think it did have its popularity in the OCG, I just think its popularity there does not match what it had here. And I also think it kind of has the same argument as Kaiju's, why it ended up so low on here, which is like it's not an actual archetype. So people like, I don't know. People look at like Cyber Dragon, are literally like they already have a lot of nice support, dark or cyber and cyber darks as well, and they're like both of those decks already have a lot of support. So like Konami like can really just work off of that. Ice Bear has a ton of cards, Gusto has a lot of cards, Trickstars have a lot of cards. Those will be easy to build off of. But they don't have to nail and make like 5 amazing cards in the structure deck. They just need to make a couple good like nice tip offs to like kind of put those archetypes together, whatever way they want. Whereas for Tour Guide, it literally has 3 cards in its archetype. Like, it's not an archetype, so they have to completely use a structure deck to make this an archetype all at once. And I think that kind of takes away as well some of, you know, what would have given Tour Guide any kind of, you know, argument to be voted on. So I think this is like surprising to me, but mainly just surprising to me because I didn't think about the fact that like the OCG probably doesn't like Tour Guide as much as we like Tour Guide, because we in the TCG just love Burning Abyss. So yeah, it is what it is. That would have been my pick, but it is what it is. And then Super Heavy Samurai bringing up the rear, not surprising. This has just always been an archetype that I looked at and I was like, why did Konami make so many Super Heavy Samurai cards? This archetype is not particularly cool, not particularly interesting, and they made a ton of cards. I was blown away when I saw how many cards they had for this. I think people think like, oh, like they already made so many cards and they still stink, like whatever, give up on Super Heavy Samurais. Anyway though, as far as where I am with this, I'm satisfied because in my video I said if you were to give me, if I were allowed to pick, I would pick Tour Guide number 1, Kaiju's number 2. But I also said that the archetypes I would be okay with were Cyber Style, Ice Barrier, and Gusto. Literally those 3. And so they're bringing up the top 3. Remember guys, anything can happen because if you recall, the last time we had the structure deck vote, Shadalls were like running the whole show the entire time, and then at the last second, Sacred Beast jumped in front of them, and then at the very, very last second, Shadalls jumped back in front of the Sacred Beast. So we could see a little bit of movement here. We could see Gusto or Trickstar try and make a push at Ice Barrier for the number 2 slot. I don't think Ice Barrier can, or any of these can really have a chance at beating out Cyber Style. Like, I mean, that's from the right out the gate. I think anybody who knows like any history about Yu-Gi-Oh would look at that and be like, I don't see any way that Cyber Dragon doesn't get first. So that's what I'm thinking about here, guys. This is just an update for this, of course. Hopefully your deck is here, at least in the top 3 with a chance. Maybe top 4 if you're a Trickstar fan, with a chance at making top 2. And we'll just have to see. 3 more days and we should know. Well, actually 3 more days, and then I think we won't actually know until the 30th is when they're actually reveal like what actually won at the end of the day. So we do have a little bit of time, but just a quick update here, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. As always, subscribe to the channel if you have not yet and you want to see more stuff from your boy. Stay up to date with Yu-Gi-Oh news, deck profiles, discussion videos, all that stuff, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.